Om Shri Sai Ram. My humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. Today we have an eminent speaker, Brother Sai Surendranath. He joined the Sri Satya Sai Junior College Brindavan for his intermediate course. With Swami's blessings, he joined the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and pursued BCom from 1979 to 1982 as the first ever batch and MCom from 1982 to 1984 as the first batch as well. As per Swami's directions, he is currently teaching in the higher secondary school as a postgraduate teacher in Commerce Department, teaching business organization, management and statistics, and has taught 35 batches of students. He has also received a certificate of appreciation from the Ministry of Human Resource Department twice as the best teacher and for excellent performance of his students with Swami's grace. Let us enjoy this session. Jai Sai Ram.
Sairam.
Yeah.
Mr. Tyagarajan sir, I can start?
Yes, sir. We can start. Yeah.
Okay. Sairam, I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Lord, respected elders, and all the office bearers from Thane Samiti. And Mr. Tyagarajan was behind me for a long time. I'm very sorry. I'm supposed to speak to this beautiful group long back, I think maybe 2 months back. Because of some personal reasons, I was not able to do it. Mr. Tyagarajan knows about it. And then finally, maybe God decided that I should be with this beautiful Thane, more devoted and loving group from Mumbai. Hail Mumbai. And my loving greetings to all the brothers and sisters, youth, children, all the elders, my loving greetings to all of you. It is nice to be with Sai family. And today morning I was thinking, from my end, it becomes very difficult to speak because most of my speeches, they've already uploaded here and there, and everybody knows in and about my secrets. So I don't know what to speak. So I thought, okay, somewhere I have to, when you want to talk about Swami, you just have to think about him and he will talk through me. That's what I always feel. And today only I sat and seriously thought of some idea, and Swami gave me an opportunity to share with you. The topic that he gave me today was, He lives in you. I think that is the most appropriate title, and that is most needed title in the current scenario because of this COVID pandemic and all the uncertainties in life. So He lives in you should reassure us, revitalize us, and at the same time, it enriches and it gives us constant support and happiness that we know that He is with us, He is still living with us. It is only that whether we are living with Him, in tune with Him, is a question mark. He is very clear. He says, I am with you, I am in you, I am above you, around you, within you. He is very clear. But are we in the same ambit? Are we in the same frequency? That is a question mark. So that is what I thought I will share with you all, and how there are beautiful instances which Swami enlightened us and gave beautiful examples in life where we can emulate, and also we should feel that He lives in us all the time. So He lives in you is a topic. So as a student, we had an umpty number of good opportunities to gather like this in the interview room. So we always sit there and Swami will keep on asking, and we also keep on asking questions. And this is how the interaction between God and devotee, our Swami and his students, used to go on. And every time we used to ask some questions, and whatever that we ask, and Swami always gives beautiful answers, beautiful explanation, and very valid points. And at the same time, our doubts will be totally clarified. And he also will give you apt examples right from mythological, or it can be even personal life. And his own personal life also he will highlight, saying that that is how it has to be, life has to be. So, but one thing I felt was, all of us as devotees, we always ask God. And that is what we say prayers, right? Prayers is what? You talk to God. So always you keep on talking to God. And always you ask, Swami, I want this. Swami, I want promotion. Swami, I want first rank. Swami, I want to get married. Swami, I want to buy a house. Swami, this. Swami, this. So all of us, irrespective of caste, creed, color, nationality, religion, every devotee to the respective God, I want, and I want. Whether your want is satisfied or not, that is the frequency between you and the God. But generally, we always do that. Ages after ages, devotees always pray God, either in temple or in your house altar. But have you ever thought, for a while, it triggered in my mind, every time we ask God, is there any opportunity that God opens his mouth and asks his devotee, what do you want? What do you want? And I'm sure many devotees around the world, whoever had this beautiful interaction with Bhagwan in that beautiful interview room, which is 8 by 8, it can occupy the entire world. Anoranyam Mahato Manyam. So always I used to sit outside the interview room and wonder, if 8 people goes into 8 by 8 room also, it is full. 80 people go into 8 by 8 room also, it will still absorb and it is still full. So that is why, that is the greatness of our Lord. So there with this beautiful group, he is asking you, what do you want? Tell me, dear brother and sister, is there anywhere you find God standing in front of devotees and asking, what do you want? I'm ready to offer. And this type of interactions, we had umpty numbers with Swami, but we always felt that whenever we asked this and that, Swami was never satisfied. We knew something what Swami wants to offer to us, we are not exactly touching that note. And then finally, one day we all decided, what do you want? No, cheppu, em kavala cheppandi. Swami, adi kaadu, vere em kavala cheppu. Swami, this, adi kaadu, vere em kavala cheppu. Like that used to go on. Then that day we all thought, Swami wants to offer us something where we are not matching Swami's frequency. Then we all decided, Swami, we want you. Swami, we want you. Swami felt immensely happy. And then we understood that is what the right, correct perspective and the right answer for this question, what do you want? But again, Swami is, little Krishna. He will not, just like that, if you say, Swami, we want you, it's not, Swami is not a commodity. Okay, take me. It's not like that. A stunt ra, stunt. Andru stunt chastarra, like that he will tell. No, Swami, really, Swami, we like you, Swami. Yenduku Swami kavali? Why do you want Swami? Swami, we love you. You don't love your mother? You don't love your father? But your heart is not a musical sofa. It has to be only for one person. If you say, I love you, Swami, Swami should be in your heart. But this is a temporary chair you are keeping in your heart. Whenever you are in trouble, you want to place Swami there. When you go roaming on the street, you put someone else in the heart. Chore, stunt anta stunt masterlu. Like that Swami used to pull us. But anyway, that day was a great lesson that we understood that what do you want? Then we all used to say, Swami, we want you. And this clue was picked up whenever the interaction happens, not only in the interview room door, but even in the quadrangle, in the outside ground and the portico, devotees also caught this. So next time when Swami goes to a devotee and asks, kya chahiye tumko? Swami, aap chahiye, Swami. Like that. So that is how, like an infection, this answer got spread everywhere. But that is a beautiful way of our sweet little Lord trying to make you think, trying to make you want what he wants to give you. That is the beauty of what do you want, this question, Swami, we want you. Okay, Swami says, I am always with you. I am always with you. But what is that? You want me and I am with you. Take me. But Swami says, just taking me as it is not the answer. That will not suffice. There is something more unique. There is something more deeper. What is that? Swami says, experience me with your true devotion, that is bhakti, and experiencing me with your unconditional love. The love towards all other people can be conditional. You are loving your mother because she is your mother, condition. You are loving your daughter because she is your daughter, there is a condition. You love your iPhone because it is your iPhone, there is a conditional. But when you love me, it should be unconditional. You should not say, you are Sai Baba, so I am loving. No, you and me should become one. When that becomes, that is your devotion. That is called bhakti. For bhakti, there is nothing like bimba pratibimba, becomes one. This kind of unconditional love, the more you create, the more you become. I am always with you. I will be always with you. I honor my words. That's what Swami said. But to vouch this, I will share with you beautiful reminiscence of divine movements. How this is, what Swami says is not empty words, but Swami, when he says something, it is pregnant with meaning. There is deeper in significance, and definitely you can, and Swami himself has given a vouch for this beautiful thing. I'll tell you, we had lovely days in Kodaikanal, and always boys crave to spend time with Bhagavan at Kodaikanal. And we used to stay there for say 3 weeks or sometimes 4 weeks, depending upon the condition, weather conditions and this and that. But every time when we stay with Bhagavan, it is not just staying with Bhagavan, it is every time it is enriching ourselves, knowing us. And Swami reveals him as the true universal self. Swami is never like Sai Baba there. He will be like friend, and he'll be like a host in the dining hall, and he'll be friend when we do going to market and this and that, and he'll be playing games with us, and he becomes little far away from us, so he becomes like God and devotee. And at the same time, there were some situations where he reveals his true identity, that he is not just Sai Baba, he is not this form that you see, this is much, much beyond that. Oh, beautiful. One day, so many incidents will go on. One beautiful incident I want to share with you all. Whenever Swami talks about Rama, whenever Swami talks about Krishna, he forgets himself. And the way he involves in explaining that scenario, that situation, and hearing him speaking, we can visualize the whole thing in front of our eyes, as if it is just happening in front of our eyes. That way Swami used to explain, that is because he lived that life. He was like Rama, he was like Krishna, so he could explain very clearly and very nicely, and we visualize the whole concept of whatever Swami tells. So one day Swami was telling that Rama, after killing Ravana, Rama was coming back to Ayodhya. So when Rama, full family came back, and there is a coronation going on, a good day was decided, and Pattabhishekam program was going on, everything is done, and the program function also is done. And then usually Swami, we all know that one boy will be holding a laddu basket or some chocolate basket, and Swami used to put his left hand and right hand and start throwing chocolates. You must have seen this beautiful incidents everywhere. And Swami was telling like that, Rama those days, after the coronation function and everything is over, and in that big hall, so many people, great people were seated, and one person was holding a big tray in that full of expensive, priceless ornaments like diamonds, pearls, rubies, whatnot. Everything was the necklaces, everything was there. And Rama will pick up one and give it and offer to one guest one item, like gift, coronation gift. So it was going on. And Hanuman used to be standing next to Rama. And Hanuman will be always following Rama. Wherever Rama goes, he'll be following. And Rama ignoring Hanuman, running around and picking up and again distributing, picking up and distributing was going on. And when everybody gets completed, and Rama was asking, I believe, is there anyone left? Did I forget anyone? Is there anyone? Please let me know. Please accept this gift like that. Then Sita slowly came closer to Rama. Rama, you have given everyone except one. No, no, no. I asked in the assembly, everybody said they received. No, Rama, you forgot one person, very important person. I said, who? He's standing next to you. He's Hanuman. How can you forget Hanuman? You gave gift to everybody and you did not give gift to Hanuman. Then Rama whispered with Sita, I don't have anything to give to Hanuman. What can I give? What are you talking? Right in front of you, such a big tray. So much of ornaments are there. You can pick up anything and give. You give to so many people. Why can't you give it to Hanuman? Sita, my dear one, I don't have anything which is apt, which is correct, which is right, which Hanuman will appreciate. I don't have. I can't give him and he will not like it. What are you talking? Such precious ones. How can you say that? No, 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 I don't have anything to give. I'm sorry, I can't give. Then Sita says, after all this distribution, he is an important man. If at all, if you and me are connected today, it is because of Hanuman. It is because Hanuman crossed the ocean and came to Lanka, he identified me. And when your brother was fainted, it was Hanuman who brought the Sanjeevani mountain and saved him. See, so much Hanuman did. Can't you give something to Hanuman? Dear Sita, really I'm telling, I don't have anything to give. I don't think anything I have that I can offer to Hanuman, and I don't think Hanuman will accept. Then Sita feels, Hanuman, what you're doing is not correct. Okay, let me give. And he calls Hanuman, come here. Hanuman comes, Mataji, and she removes her pearl necklace. She felt that what she is wearing, and if she gives that to Hanuman, Hanuman will be immensely pleased. And she gave her pearl necklace to Hanuman. And Hanuman said, why? Mataji, why? No, this is our loving gift for all that effort, for all that you united our family, for all that. This is a small gift. Please accept. Then Hanuman looks at Rama and Rama nods. Then Hanuman picks up that garland, that pearl necklace, and then taking and putting in ears and doing like this, everything. And then suddenly he picked up one and started biting. Everybody in the assembly started laughing. It was an insult to Sita. Sita felt so much for Hanuman for being deprived, for denying the gift. And when she gave in front of everyone, she felt very small that Hanuman is showing his monkey habits. Instead of wearing the gift what I gave, that monkey habits will not go. Started biting everything. And she felt very insulted. And Swami immediately in front of us is created. And this is the chain which Swami created, the pearl necklace, which had 108 pearls strung, long one. And this was the pearl necklace which Swami created and said that Mother Sita gave it to Hanuman, and Hanuman was doing this work. And everybody was laughing. She felt insulted. And then with great pain in the heart, Sita asked Hanuman, Hanuman, I gave you out of love. What are you doing? Why are you biting this? Why can't you wear it and make me happy? Pardon me, mother. I am not insulting anyone or insulting you, mother. I am only seeing whether the necklace what you gave me, each pearl is uttering the word of Rama. So I kept in my ears and the pearl was silent. It was not saying Rama. Then I thought maybe if I bite, maybe inside I can hear. Still, it was not telling anything. So anything as a gift which does not contain the word or nama of Rama, I don't accept as a gift. I don't need this, Mataji. And he gave back. Then Rama looks at Sita and smiles. That is why I told you, I don't have anything to offer to Hanuman, which he will appreciate that as a gift, because he is supreme soul. He is par excellence. His Bhakti Bhava is unique, and no one ever can reach that kind of pinnacle. And then Sita looks at Hanuman. You mean to say, whatever you have, everything chants the word of Hanuman, your Gada you are also having chain and other things. Do you think all that is telling Hanuman? Yes, Mataji, everything tells the name of Rama. And then if you want, and he plucks one hair and he takes closer to Sita, and Rom Rom me Ram Naam hai. Every hair of Hanuman is telling Ram, Ram, Ram. That is the beauty. He lives in you. Who lived with Hanuman? Rama is all the time, every inch. This is what in Kali Age Swami is telling. What is that? I am in you, above you, below you, around you. But only thing is, we are seeing the direction, but we are not seeing the person who is supposed to be in that direction. That is the misguided missile. We are all misguided missiles. This is where every word, every roam was resonating with Rama. This was a beautiful experience. So I thought I will share with you all, because this is the apt example, which I was part of that group, and I saw this, and he lives in you. There is nothing more than perfect example, this pearl necklace. Now, how to develop such unconditional love? It is fine when Swami tells and we are part of it, and we all touch that pearl necklace. Wow, it's all wow moments. Fine. But where are you? How far are you? You are only touching. Where is that feeling like Hanuman? How much is the percentage of that devotion of Hanuman with you? How to develop this unconditional love? Swami tells us there are only two things: faith and prayer. If you have faith and prayer, definitely you can win the game. Faith and prayer, both are invisible. We all have faith. What is that? Tomorrow morning I will get up. If I sleep tonight, tomorrow morning I'll get up. Can you show that faith? You cannot show. It is an experience. Prayer. I am praying, Swami. I am praying, Lord, that everything should go on very well. Can you show your prayer? You cannot show your prayer. It is inside. It is connection between you and God. So the faith and the prayer, both are invisible. It can be experienced, but cannot be explained. But they make impossible things possible, provided if the faith is true faith, if your prayer is pure prayer, intense prayer, anything which is impossible, God can make it possible. That is why Swami says, where there is faith, there is love. Now the question is unconditional love. Hanuman's was unconditional love. How to feel this love? Swami told, the best way to feel this love, to enjoy this love, to live in this love is only through bhakti. Bhakti is the only way. And in Kali Age, Swami says, that is the easiest way where you can realize God. You can live with God and you can attain God. Bhakti movement, Bhakti Bhava is the best thing Swami was telling. Okay, fine. So what is this bhakti? There are so many ways to reach God. Bhakti Bhava, the path of devotion, is nothing but what you offer. Bhagavad Gita says, you may offer a leaf, you may offer a flower, you may offer a fruit, you may offer a little pashpam, pushpam, thoyam, all that we say, palam, pashpam, all these things you offer. But the offering should not be physical, but the offering should be from your mind, from your heart. Then only God will accept. Superficially, if you do like that, like how a pujari gives you tirtham in the temple, you show your hand and he'll put that. So he is mechanically doing. The same way, if you reciprocate to God also, God, take this coconut, take this betel nut, take this banana, God will not appreciate. With love, how that love supposed to be? Have you seen Vatsalya love, that love between a mother and a child? Even if child denies eating food, the mother shows the moon, shows the star, shows everything, cajoles, comforts, make jokes, and somehow feeds. Why she's taking all that effort to put a morsel of 1 spoon of food into the mouth of baby? Because same blood. Mother. That is mother's love. If one mother takes so much of efforts to appease the hunger of his loved one, this is your divine mother. And he says, my love is 1,000 mothers' love. When we are not understanding, appreciating, analyzing one mother's love, how can we appreciate God's love? That is why Swami says, make an effort. Whatever that you are offering, God will not see what you are giving. God will see how you are giving. What you are giving is not important. How you are giving it to me is important. Are you giving me as a routine matter? Or are you giving me just because you have to give me? Or you are giving me out of love? That is unconditional love. That is why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever, yejana parupasadi, any person, whatever way, but if you offer that to me with pure mind and devotion, bhakti bhava, I will accept and you become mine and I will become yours. That is why Sanskrit word bhaj means what? Love. What is this love? It is attachment. The mother and the baby attachment, God and devotee attachment. The mother knows this is my baby, that is faith is there. She won't feed the same way how she is feeding her baby. She will not feed people are running around on the street. Because she's feeding her baby, she's having faith. This is my baby, faith. That faith between God and devotee, that attachment between God and devotee, that love between God and devotee, then attached with devotion and prayer, I'm telling you, that is the bhakti bhava. That is the bhakti marga. That is the best method to reach God. And we have umpty number of examples. We have Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Namdev, Tukaram, Jayadev. And for all Shaiva Vaishnavas we have, and all Vaishnavas we have. Nayanmars, Alvars. Not one. You can name plenty, many people, they are all on records. Many are not on records. So this is how you find bhakti movement, where in Kali age, that is the simplest bridge, easiest way, easiest path. It's a bridge connecting between God and devotee. And in Kali age, this is another aspect which Swami was talking us. There are so many avatars of Mahavishnu. And one is Krishna, which is very popular. And Krishna is just before the Kali age. After Rama, Krishna, after Krishna, Kali age. Swami said that during Krishna's period, the bhakti bhava was in many ways. And we always heard Navavrita Bhakti. What are Navavrita Bhakti? Navavrita Bhakti. Nine types of devotion. But Swami says in Krishna Avatar, the highlight of 3 types of bhakti. And 3 types of bhakti, first Swami says is Vaschalya Bhakti. In lifespan of Sri Krishna, he has seen 3 types of bhakti. Yes, and he has given example for the Kali age to appreciate and understand that aspect of bhakti. What we always see is the physical form. So Vaschalya Bhakti, if you see Krishna and Yashoda, the amount of love that Yashoda was having to Krishna, unimaginable. And most of the time, Krishna was revealing to Yashoda, hello, my dear mom, I am not an ordinary person. I am the universal self. That second she understands but next second she forgets Maya. So what is this Vatsalya Bhakti? When Krishna was eating butter from everybody's house, she felt offended and she wants to punish Krishna. And one day when Krishna was eating mud, why are you eating mud? I have the best of the food at home, and open your mouth. And in the mouth shows the entire universe. She was amazed, surprised. She didn't know what to do. And next second she forgets. But the love of Yashoda is only physical. That is why it's called Vatsalya Bhakti. Once in a while, the glimpse will come. She'll understand that she is God. He is God. And next moment, he's my son. Not God, he's my son. So this is how Krishna, once in a while, showing the cream, enlightening her. And next second, she feels Krishna is my son. This is one type of bhakti, the Yashoda and little Krishna. The next type of bhakti is called Anuraga Bhakti. Same in Krishna's life, Anuraga Bhakti. These Anuraga Bhaktis are Gopikas. Swami says Anuraga. Anu means every pit. Anu, every atom. Small molecules. Minute. Raga is attachment. Every cell, just like Hanuman says, Romu Romu me Ramanamam, same way Gopikas, every cell of their body is attached to the form of Krishna. Their Vatsalya Bhakti, body. Anuragda Bhakti, mind. Because that feeling comes from the mind. Krishna is mind. So they will all be, Swami used to say, they'll all be working in their house. And suddenly Krishna will climb on a tree and comfortably sit on a branch and started playing the flute. That's all. They will leave everything, all the work which they are doing in their house, forget everything. Their mind was attracted towards a beautiful melody, what Krishna was playing. And they all rushed to the garden to see Krishna. Their mind was attracted to the mind of Krishna. Yashoda was attracted to the body of Krishna. That is why it's called Anuraga Bhakti, is Gopika Bhakti. And the third Bhakti, what Swami said was Madhura Bhakti. Madhura is sweetness. And there is only one person who is eligible to have this accreditation. That name is called Radha Bhakti, is Madhura Bhakti, sweetness. Here, it doesn't pertain to body, Krishna's body. It doesn't pertain to mind. There is no akar, there is no rupa, but Madhura, sweetness. She feels Krishna is mine and I am Krishna. That sweetness can be experienced. If I put a drop of honey in your mouth, and when you spread that on your tongue, you enjoy the sweetness. But can you explain how is the sweetness? No one can explain the sweetness of sweetness. You can only say, how is it sweet? Can you explain? It is sweet. No, yeah, explain with few words. Oh, it's very sweet. So there is no other word which is equivalent to sweet. So what is the best way? To shut my mouth further, should not ask what is sweet, how is sweet. Put a drop of honey in my mouth, I get the answer. I will not question you how is sweet, because I am experiencing sweet. Radha Bhakti is an experience. That is where Madhura, that sweetness of Radha's devotion, Radha's love. Many people feel Radha's love is physical. It is not. Swami says it is never physical. Radha and Krishna is something which is Jivatma and Paramatma's level. It is nothing pertaining to physical or this. That sweetness is Radha Bhakti. And Swami, in Kodai one day, we all cried. The way Swami explains, you all should listen. I am very bad in explaining why, because he was Krishna. He seeing Radha when he is talking to us. But when I am talking to you, I am only trying to share what Swami told us. It seems Radha, whenever she thinks of Krishna and Krishna appears, And Swami says, do you know how is her devotion? She will stand in front of tree, it seems, and she will not see the tree. She will say Krishna, and the tree becomes Krishna. And Swami says she will pick up a flower. For you and me, it is like a flower. She'll look at the flower and say, Krishna, where are you? How are you? And the flower turns into Krishna. So that means what? Wherever, whatever, whenever she sees not the object, but Krishna in the object. That is called Madhura. You see sugar cane, but sweetness is inside full sugar cane. You and me are seeing sugar cane, Radha is seeing the sweetness. That is the difference between Radha Bhakti and our Bhakti. Our Bhakti is external, yeah, sugar cane. Unless you make sadhana, crushing, cutting, chewing, then only you get the sweetness. But Radha is evolved soul. The moment she sees sugar cane, she sees the sweetness in the sugar cane, but she never sees the sugar cane. That is the evolution. That is the progress. That is the ultimate type of devotion. That is why it is sweet. There is nothing more than that. That is the top. And Radha, it seems, one day asked Krishna, Krishna, I know you are always with me. And I know you always, listen to my words. But I have only one request. Then Krishna says, Radha, ask me. Anything for you. Will I deny? Just ask me what you want. Then she says, Krishna, the day I am living, I want you to stand next to me. I want to live my life looking at you so that it is easy for me to become one with you. Will you promise? Yeah, I will come. No. Will you promise and you will be here? Definitely, when the time comes, I'll be next to you. And Swami says, this is how Radha was lying down. She was about to leave her life. The last time has come. Few more moments of her beautiful life as Radha. And she just closed her eyes. My dear Krishna, where are you? I am coming. And immediately it seems Krishna rushed and sat next to her. Dear Radha, I am next to you. And she says, Krishna, for me, only once, last time, can you play a song on the flute? And immediately Krishna, why not? And he picks up the flute and he plays a beautiful melody. And Radha closes their eyes. And in few moments, the Jyoti, the life of Radha, becomes Krishna. And that is how you find Radha and Krishna. The very name says Radha Krishna. Radha is half and Krishna is half. Radha Krishna. That is why Swami beautifully in his discourse says, what is the word, meaning of the word Radha? A is Radha, A is Adhar, Dha is Dhara, and A is Aradhana. Radha, Adhar is Dhara, Aradhana. Aradhana is worship. Dhara is the innocent flow. You can see, I put a picture, when you're pouring oil, there is no gap. That gap should not be there. That is called the Dhara. And what is the Dhara? It is the Aradhana. That is the love, the worship, the devotion to Krishna. That is the Adhar. That is a basis for Radha. That is why the name was given as Radha. Radha, Adhar, Dhara, Aradhana. That is why Radha Krishna. And when Swami speaks this incident and explains this, I'll tell you, we are all having goosebumps and we're feeling as if it was happening right in front of our eyes. And you can see Swami's eyes moist, few drops of, that like joyful tears you can see in Swami. I can make out, we all can make out that Swami was living the beautiful days of Lord Krishna at Kodaikanal. That is the beauty. And what is the significance of flute? Swami said, flute is hollow. Swami said, all of you should be like that. And flute is like Jivatma. When you blow the air, that is Paramatma, makes the melody of your life. That is why flute has 9 holes, our body has 9 holes. And why Swami says the flute is hollow? If only flute is hollow, then only the air can come and escape, can make melodies. We in this body, we have raga, dvesha, all vices. All these things, ego, jealousy, hatred, vengeance, all these things, if we can eradicate, then our body will become like flute, hollow. If that is hollow, then God will play melody. But if you fill up everything, all the junk, and you ask melody to come, how will it come? It will not come. So that is where Swami says, empty vessel, I can fill anything. But in your vessel, you already dumped all the junk and you're asking me to pour my love. If I pour my love, it is only coming out. It is not going inside. Why? Because your heart, your mind is not empty. It is already filled with all unnecessary things. If empty that and accept my love. And that is the significance of this flute. The more ego you are, the flute will not play very well. If you devoid of ego, and then your life will become, you can sanctify your life and God will play through your life. So that is the combination of Jivatma and Paramatma. Next, what are the different ways our Swami has given us to sanctify our life? There are so many ways that he has given us. Balavikas is there, Sevadal is there, Vedam is there, meditation, Yogasana, Grama Seva, medical camp, Narayana Seva, study circle, it goes on. Swami has given us so many options. Do you know why Swami has given so many options? In Kali age, everybody cannot possess everything. Each one will be good in one aspect. Swami says, the path of devotion, you need something, one matchstick to ignite. That one matchstick can be at the age of Balavikas, or when you are a Sevadal, or while doing bhajan, or while chanting Vedam, or when you are doing meditation, or doing Yogasana, or anything when you are doing, that should trigger, and that should ignite the divinity within. Once when you make this small attempt, there is transformation in you, and you also will be evolved. If not Radha Bhakti, if not like Hanuman, at least 1% of that is good enough to reach our destination. The last stage to experience his unconditional love is only when you surrender. When you surrender, he will render his service. If you don't surrender, don't expect him to render anything from his hand. So first is always give and take. Swami always says, you go to a shop, unless you give 10 rupees, then only he will give you a soap or a pencil or a rubber. If you don't offer, he will not offer anything to you. So first learn to offer. And in spiritual path, what is that you have to offer? Not the money, not the power, not the position, not the wealth. God wants you. Hello, my dear, offer yourself to me, then I will show myself to you. So yourself and myself will become one universal self. So this is the idea of surrender. I will wind up with one beautiful personal example. He lives in you. I joined Brindavan, as one sister told me nicely, 77, I joined Brindavan there for intermediate. And that was our hostel, Walter Cowan block. And those days we used to have summer course. And summer course, as I told you, 3 weeks and 4 weeks, 1 month, the gala time we used to have. And Swami used to pick up beautiful topic like Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, whatever it may be. And Swami will bring eminent scholars from all over India. And they're all, well-read. They know page after page, word after word, everything. And they will come and explain the whole day. And in the end, Swami will highlight whatever they said. And Swami's discourse, every day Swami's discourse will be there. That is how you can see Summer Showers books. If you read, you will have beautiful idea of how the summer course was during our time. So when this was going on, that year I joined 77. I know the summer course is going to be around the corner. Just 1 month. Exams got over in the month of March. It is going to start the month of April, May 1st. And I was already in April first week or so. And I thought if I can hang on for another 3 more weeks, I can join summer course. But you know, those days, Swami will select few boys. All will not get the opportunity. Why? Because some 50% of the institute boys, that is Swami's college boys, 50% from all the states, all over India, all the states will be getting 15 boys and 15 girls to be part of this beautiful summer course. So I thought very cleverly, I will hang on. If I go home only, no, it's a problem. If I stay back in the hostel, obviously they have no choice. Warden has to add my name. So I stayed back. So 3 days over, 4 days over, Warden called me and asked, hey, what man, everybody left for vacation, you are still here. No, sir, I want to be here only, sir. I don't want to go home, sir. No. Swami won't like, you have to go home. I said, sir, please, I want to be here, sir. And say, sir, so much cleaning work is there, sir, in the hostel, removing cobweb and washing this, that. I will do, sir. Some seva I will be doing, sir. I can spend some time. What will I do at home, sir? Please, sir, permit me, sir. No. All that not possible. We are workers. You go to hostel. Otherwise, Swami will bash me. No. So like that, when warden is coming this way, I will run that side. When warden is coming that side, I will run. I will not show my face. If I show my face, then he will still ask me that question. Like that, I dodged another 5 days. But in the dining hall, anyway, he has to come for food and I also have to go for food. So there I was caught. He said, I told you to go, you go. Then I really cried and I told, sir, I want to be part of this summer course, sir. Please, sir. That is why I am trying to make all my efforts to be here. If I go, if you don't call me, I will be missing the summer course, sir. Please, sir, please, sir. He took pity on me and he said, if Swami gives okay, Swami has not told okay, no. Let Swami decide the date, May first week or May second week. Let Swami decide. And once when everything is confirmed, we will call you. Sir, are you sure will you call me, sir? I understand. You very badly wanted. Definitely, I will call you. You mark my words. I said, sir, please, sir, don't forget me, sir. I said, okay, fine. I touched his feet so that you will not forget me. And then I packed my luggage, came back to Chennai. And then every day I'm waiting, thinking some letter will come. Nothing is happening. So usually Chennai summer, I was staying in Triplicane, closer to Marina Beach, damn hot. Chennai summer, you know, sultry it will be. So we had our lunch and the fan will be in full swing and we all were sleeping in the hall. Suddenly, my mother woke up. She was also, you know, like catnap, all were sleeping. Suddenly my mother got up and she tapped me and he said, hey, I got a dream. I said, what, mom, what dream? Swami is telling, you are standing next to Swami and Swami is telling me, showing you, this fellow wants to come for summer course, make all arrangements for him. Really? I said, yeah, that is a dream, man. Yeah, it is your dream, but dream should come true, no? He never came in my dream. I am supposed to go. You cannot attend, but he comes in your dream. What is the use? If he comes in my dream, it is better, no? Hey, if he comes in my dream also, it is assurance, no, that you will go. So we were arguing and down the postman was knocking at the door. So I rushed and opened the door and postman was standing and gave me an envelope. And there it is written, says Satsai Brindavan campus. I immediately came, rushed to open and he said, you are invited for summer course as a participant, this, and you have to join within 5 days. And the date of joining also is given. I said, Amma, you woke me, you said Swami spoke to you. And I think Swami is confirming through you. And my doubt whether he should come to me and tell. And my doubt is also clear because the letter has come. So it is very clear that Swami wants me to attend summer course. I said, fine. So immediately they arranged, that time we have this Brindavan Express. There are only 2 trains, I think night mail and then one Brindavan Express. At that time, I think Bangalore Express, sorry, not Brindavan Express. Bangalore Express was there. Brindavan Express was later. And night mail, these are only 2 trains available during those days. So finally, that day, it's all full. And, my parents brought me up with so much of love and care that I used to go to school and college only with one ayah, one servant lady. She will carry my food, she will carry my books, and I'll, like a prince, I'll be walking. And everybody always, they used to accompany. I was never left alone. And my father only brought me and admitted in the hostel during my first intermediate. So first intermediate over, all the time I was in the hostel only. Again, while going back, my father will come and pick me up. Like I was never left alone to go anywhere. So like that, they brought me up. And now what happened? My father cannot come, and I have to travel. And from Brindavan, no ticket, no confirmed ticket. And those days when we went to the railway station, the porters know when the train comes, they will throw their towel and their dhoti through the windows in general compartment. They will throw. It's a big, racket there. And then we went and approached one porter. And porter said, sir, I will give you want window seat? I will give you a window seat. You give me some money, I will give. My father said, okay. And we were waiting, and the train was coming to the platform. And this fellow porter just threw one towel like that. And then he went and sat. Then all the crowd rushing, pulling. He said, don't come, I will call you. So we were outside only. Everybody settled down. And then the porter got up and he came. This is your seat, you sit down. So unreserved compartment, I got a reserved seat through porter. Okay. And I paid not the railway department, but I paid the porter department. Anyway, my seat is there. But unfortunately, my father was panicking, because that was my first lone journey from one state to another. And on top of it, I can speak English, I can speak Tamil, and I can speak Telugu, my mother tongue. And here, Bangalore is Kannada. I can't. Hindi, out of question. Because when I was studying Hindi, down, big galata. I also used to write, I was forced to write on government bus, Hindi, down, like that. That is why I was brought up like that in Chennai. So I can't speak Hindi. So the problem is how to go. So my father, what he did, one family was sitting in front of me. He's my son, he's going to Bangalore. So please take care of him, and he will get down, and see that he will never go outside the train when the train stops and all that. And my father gave me big do's and don'ts and all that. Don't put your hand outside, don't stand near the gate, when the train stops, don't get down, and the train goes, you cannot climb the train. All that. I said, okay, Papa, I will get down only in the last Bangalore city cantonment station only. I will not get down at all. So my father said, okay, fine. So everything done, train started. That was my first lone journey. And then I was seated, and as usual, they gave me something to eat, all that finished. Then what happened, the beauty of this Bangalore Express, it will stop in a station called Malur. After the Malur, it is Whitefield station. And after the Whitefield station, it is Krishnarajapuram. Okay. Now, this train will stop at Malur, will stop after Whitefield, that is Krishnarajapuram, and then it goes to cantonment, and then it goes to city. But it will not stop in Whitefield. But I have to go to Whitefield. So I was just casually talking to all those people. Then they said, no, Malur, it will stop. Where you have to go? I said, Sai Baba College, this and that. No. What you have to do is you can get down in Krishnarajapuram and come down, or you get down in Malur and come front. I said, where is Malur? I do not know. I don't know where is Krishnarajapuram. First time I'm traveling in train alone. So, and plus language barrier. And what time? Night. That express started 1:30 afternoon, and it will be reaching Bangalore at 9 o'clock. And I am here, what time? Malur, all the people are getting into the train. In Malur is an industrial hub. People were hanging on the unreserved compartment, all the laborers. Then finally, when the Malur crossed and people are telling, Whitefield is coming like that, I just wanted to see from train my hostel building. So I saw my hostel building and Swami's building, full color lights, series light, and so much of beautiful decoration. Nighttime, colorful lights are coming, floodlights, this and that. And I am seeing my Malur, my Whitefield night. And from here behind, I can see Swami's Mandir and my hostel. And the train was zooming fast. And I saw the station master with the green flag telling the train to go and not to stop. He's hanging on like that. Suddenly I thought, Swami, you are so close, yet so far. This was my thought. Swami, you are so close, Yet so far. If only, if this train stops for 1 minute, I can jump and reach hostel. Now I have to go to Bangalore city, and from there I have to come to city market, and the last bus is at 9:30. If I miss the bus, I have to sleep in the bus stand only, and the bus takes 1 hour 20 minutes to reach Kadgodi, and I will reach hostel at 11:30. If only, Swami, if this train stops for a minute, I can just jump. I thought. Then I saw the station zooming by, and I saw the station master, also going like that very fast. Suddenly, the train which was going very fast, heavy brakes, the train screeched and was stopped there. And my compartment was exactly on the railway gate road, because the station already crossed, no, the railway station road, that gate. Then I asked the guys, those who are hanging on the door, why the train stopped. And one guy, illi signal illa, like that, something was telling. I said, why? He said, no signal, no signal. Then I asked, no signal means how much time it will stop? That we do not know. Then he asked, why? I want to get down here. Jump. He said, what jump? My bedding is that side, my suitcase is this side. Arey, you jump, man, we will give. You tell me which bedding and which suitcase. I showed that. Then he said, no, first you jump. So 2-3 fellows, those who are hanging, they got down, and then they made me jump. And I jumped in between that stones. And then I was asked, my suitcase, my bedding. And finally somebody threw my suitcase, threw my beddings. Both fell outside in the dark. I picked up, I saw the whole train was stopped. The only passenger getting down from the train, that is me. And my luggage is outside, and I am also outside the train. I picked up, crossed the gate, and came to the hostel. I thank Swami. Swami, I just thought, and it happened. Anyway, I am safe. Otherwise, I had to go to city market and come. Then went to the office, and warden said, sign in the register. I signed. He said, go and have your food. So I collected my food. I was sitting in the dining hall, and I'm about to say the Brahmarpanam prayer. I was about to say Om, and I heard the train, pam. So till such time, the train was there only. I thought, okay, Swami, thank you very much. And then the next day morning, I was standing there, and Swami comes outside as if he knew where I was standing. So many boys were standing, and he looks straight at me and gives me a meaningful smile and a nod. What you said? We are very close yet very far. Stupid fellow, he lives in you. Swami is always with you. I heard you, and the whole train stopped. That was my, as a student, first experience, personally first experience. I will never forget that. And that is how the connection between me and Swami was even more stronger and stronger. So, he lives in you was my topic. Though before I wind up, today's takeaway. Do you want to be good? Or all of you, do you want to be great? This is a question. You want to be good or you want to be great? And Swami has explained this in a very beautiful way. Swami said, Sri Rama you take. We always say Rama is a good person. Why Rama is a good person? For the sake of his mother's wish, he left the kingdom. 14 years he was in the forest. Okay, he had a miserable life. And in the process, Ahalya, so many people who are in curse, all the curse were removed. And Sabari Bhakti, Hanuman Bhakti, so much. And finally, Ravana was killed. And so many auspicious things, good things, and many things happened. So Rama was good. But unfortunately, when Rama was living his physical life, he was good. Every act was as per truth and dharma, dharmic. Dharma is his life. But what happened? All through the life, he has to go through the troubles and turmoils. But we know Rama was all the time good. But on the contrary, Swami said, take Ravana. Ravana, we say Ravana is great. When Ravana was living, everybody said Ravana was great. Why? Because he captured all the worlds and he competed with everyone. And there was a singing competition between him and Hanuman. And Ravana took his intestines and made a veena and he played to that extent. When you and me see our own intestine, we will die. But he is to play melodies. See, that is the amount. And when he prays, Lord Shiva comes in front of him. And Swami was telling during Rama and during his time, it seems current electricity was there, I believe, in Sri Lanka when he was there. I don't know what form. And he had Vimana. Through that only, Sita was also kidnapped. So this is how the greatness of Ravana was praised, but when he was living. All the time when he was living, we always said Ravana was great. He knew all the 64 kalas of art, everything, Vedam, Geetam, everything, Agni Sastra, anything you say, everything is in fingertip because Ravana was great. So when he was living, everybody said Ravana was great. But what is the use of greatness? And this greatness led to what? Because of his ego, he lost everything what was great once upon a time. But on the contrary, if you see Rama, through his physical life, he went through troubles and turmoil, but he was all the time good. But after his physical, today Rama is great. That is why everywhere temples are there for Rama. You and me sing Rama. We adore him as God. We adore him as Dharma Swarupa. But nobody adores Ravana. Though he was great when living, but the greatness and goodness. Now Swami is asking, you want to be great or you want to be good? What is your choice? Greatness will never appreciate goodness. Ravana never appreciated Rama because of his ego. And goodness always leads to greatness. Because Rama was all the time good, today Rama is very great for all of us. That is why he is adored and temples are there. So therefore, if you see, he lives in you. If God lives in you, you want to be good to great or great to good, or you want to be good or you want to be great, it is up to you. But if you honestly, with your self-confidence, that faith, that Swami lives in you, if you have that kind of attitude, that kind of strong faith, and that kind of devotion, I'm telling you, he is all the time with you. And I pray Swami to bless you all. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be with you and also to recollect my beautiful days with Bhagavan. And we are so fortunate that Swami has selected you and me as part of his mission. And we are all his devotees. And we all enjoy this beautiful love all the time. I pray Swami to bless all of you and your family and success in all your endeavors. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your patient hearing and this wonderful opportunity. Sairam, good night.
Sairam sir, even though this got delayed for a month, really Swami Sankalpa only, and we really enjoyed thoroughly. And thanks a lot for accepting this invite. And I would request now our convener, Varadarajan, to address vote of thanks and conclude with Shanti Mantra. Sairam.
Thank you, sir.
Sairam Surendranath ji.
Sairam, sir.
Of all the talk, the best experience of yours, the train stop outside the Whitefield station and you getting down.
Yes.
And the next day, Swami seeing you. The communication, whether he spoke to you or not, I'm not sure. But from the vision, you would have got the communication that Swami is in you. So the feeling of Swami is in you will have to be felt by us. Even though we hear Swami saying that I am in you, we'll have to reciprocate that feeling for us to experience that. So with this, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And I thank you on behalf of all the members of Thane Samiti for this wonderful discourse of yours or the experience of yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sairam. Sairam to all of you.
Sairam. Sairam. Thank you very much. Sairam.